like his hair up here, we lose a bit of that detail. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to that last keyframe here, and we're going to drag back to the start, to this frame. We're going to duplicate our footage, and I'm going to go ahead and trim these out to where they cross over one another, and I'm going to delete the matte choker off of the top footage, so that as he's clear of the wall, what's going to happen is we're going to switch footage here. So as he clears the wall, we regain our detail in his hair and everything, like back in here. So the next thing we need to do is go into our project files, and we're going to create a duplicate of this composition. We're going to use this as a displacement map. Alright, so we're going to take our pre-keyed comp, Control D to duplicate it, and we're going to rename this displacement map. And we're going to go into our main comp, and we're going to drag in this displacement map on the first frame. Now this displacement map only needs to be large enough for us to actually cover our area here. For where he comes into the wall and ends. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here, and we're going to go back to this frame here where we have our displace, and drag our displacement comp all the way back and stop it right there. So we're going to shut the eye off on it, and as we're working, we're going to go ahead and take our background plate, click on the effects panel, and right click, go to distort, displacement map. We're going to set it to our displacement map comp, and we're going to set our max horizontal and vertical displacements to -35. So if we shut off our keyed footage, let's see, as we scrub through, we actually have a wall that displaces. So here we have what our wall looks like with the displacement happening. We want to offset this so the displacement actually starts before he starts to come through the wall. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our displacement comp. I'm going to take all of our keyframes right here, and we are going to drag them back just to about the 21st frame. Now if we go back to our main comp, and we bring him back up so we can see him, you'll see that there's actually distortion around him before he actually comes in. And you can adjust this to taste, however much distortion you want before he actually comes into frame. Now, so at full speed we have a pretty good effect going on here. It's not spectacular yet. That's where Trapcode Shine is going to come in, because we're going to use Trapcode Shine to really pop the visuals for this effect itself, so that as he comes through the wall, it really shows through. So as of right now, this is what we got going on. Now it looks like it's taking a little bit longer than I want, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shrink my keyframes just a little bit. So if we go into our displace comp and we drag these back about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames, and we do the same thing in our pre-key comp, we're going to drag these back about 5 frames. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to go ahead and readjust this footage here to match it up. So we take this and drag it over here, take this and match it up here. Okay, now we're going to get into the actual meat of what makes the rest of this look really good. So we're going to take this right here, and I'm going to go ahead and drag this back over. So we're going to drag these over our 5 frames so that we're good to go here. Now we're going to duplicate our bottom footage here, specifically so that we can use it to drive the shine effect. So we're going to take this, hit Control D to duplicate. Now on this effect, we're going to add, or on this, on this layer, we're going to go and add Trapcode Shine. Now, we can go ahead and turn everything else off for the moment. If we go over here and look at our footage, it's got a default setting for it, but it's not going to be what we want. Now, I'm going to drop this down to a third so we're just quicker so we can see it. Now, Shine has a lot of things that it can do for us as far as what it can do for our footage and how it looks. Now, obviously, I don't like this. Now, the reason I do this on a separate layer is specifically so I can take advantage of the blending mode. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to screen first. And we're going to set our transfer mode up here to add. source opacity to 0 so that we don't see him. Now in our pre-process, we don't have to change anything except for the source point, and we want to move the source point back a bit so it's behind him. I'm going to go ahead and bring him back in so we can see what he looks like. We want it back here off to the right. Now our ray length we're going to go ahead and set to about 1.2, and we're going to keyframe that at the first frame. Now shimmer, I'm going to go ahead and keyframe for the phase down here. And we're going to leave the phase at 0. We're going to take the amount, and we're going to push the amount up to 110, and the detail up to about 17.5. Now we can't see anything yet. I'll show you what we're going to look at here in a second. Down here under boost light, we're going to set boost light to about 8.5. Our source opacity is 0. Our shine opacity we're going to keyframe at 100%. And colorize, we're going to drop down on this menu and change it to fire, and we want to base it on the alpha edges. And we want our edge thickness to be set to about 10, and we're going to go ahead and keyframe that too. And this should be most of our setup. We're going to go ahead and keyframe our boost light as well. Now as we go through and we start to see our footage revealed here, we have this nice solid bright light edge on him. So we're going to go ahead and at the brightest point, which is going to be about right in here, we're going to go ahead and check all these keyframes again. Oops, not for the matte choker, for everything that we've already keyframed for our shine. We're going to set a keyframe there, and we're going to go to the end of the effect here, and we're going to drip our opacity to 0, our edge thickness to 1, our boost light down to 0. Now, when we go to our phase here, what we're going to do is we're going to set our phase up, back up to this previous keyframe at 1 and about +7. That way our light actually animates as it cycles around him, and we get to the end again. And we're going to bring it back down to 0 and 0. So what our effect is going to do is it's going to follow him out, and it's going to fade as it comes across. Now if the fade's happening too fast, like it looks like it might be happening a little too fast here, we can actually take all these keyframes that we've set here and drag them over a little bit so that it doesn't fade out quite so quickly, or it doesn't start to fade out quite so soon. Now when we go back in, what we want to do is we want to set this to full, and we want to find our first frame where he actually starts to appear. And the reason why we want to set it to full is because the way the matte choker itself works, it actually changes how the matte choker chokes the footage based on third, half, quarter, and full. Full will give you the final render result that you want, and you want to find the frame that he is on when he first starts to appear. Alright, once you've found that frame, we want to go back over to our main comp, and we're going to switch it to full too, so we can see what it looks like. Now this is where we're going to actually create some interactive lighting with the scene. So what we want to do is we want to create a new layer, a new solid, and we want this solid to, we're going to call this main light, and we want it to be a nice kind of bright orange, kind of close to our light color here. And click OK, and drag this down so that it's on top of all of our footage. Now we want to grab our rectangle mask tool, and we want to grab a mask, and we're going to kind of drag across here. We want to center this kind of over the area where he's coming through, and we're going to hit F to bring out mask feather, and we're going to feather this out. I'm going to feather it pretty good, and we're going to go ahead and continue to get this centered about right there. And we're going to change the blend mode from normal to add. And that's really bright, so hit T to bring up opacity, and we're going to drop it down to about 50%. Now, because we were looking for that first frame, we're going to drag the start point to where that first frame is, and we're going to kind of push forward until we find where he is where he's clear of the wall. Right here. He's clear of the wall here, so we're going to drag this back, and we're going to end the footage right here. Now, we want to keyframe the opacity here at the beginning. And at the brightest point, which is going to be right around here where his head starts to move, we're going to go ahead and ramp it up to about 75%. And then we're going to go to the end of the footage here, and we're going to drop it down to 0 so that it flickers bright when he first comes in, and it brightens up and then fades out as he clears the wall. Now we want to go ahead and pre-comp this. Control-Shift-C, leave all the attributes, and we're going to call this shimmer. And once we open it up, we're going to create, this is an old trick that I learned back when I was doing lightsaber effects to make my lightsabers flicker. I'm going to create a new solid and change it to color white. Go ahead and call it flicker. And we're going to change the color mode to classic color dodge. Hit T to bring up opacity, drop it to 0, keyframe the beginning, and go to the very end and keyframe the end. Hold down Shift and select both keyframes. We want to go over to the wiggler here and set it to about 25 per second at about 35, and click apply. And this is similar to using a wiggle expression, which we could use, but like I said, this is old school. I wanted to kind of throw this nice little, if you want to do it quick and manual like this. Go back to the main comp, and we're going to go ahead and drop our render down just to a third, and we're going to ramp preview this and see how this looks. And it looks pretty good. We got a good flicker off the light and everything. Now, one of the things we want to do is, because we got some pretty stark lighting going on here with his shimmer coming from the shine effect, so what we want to do is click on toggle switches, and on our pre-keyed comp, we want to click on the collapse transformations tool. What this will do is it'll actually carry over the screen setting here from our shine effect into the main comp. Now, because we got this post here, we want to go ahead and make this post part of the light too. So we want to go ahead and hit Control D, duplicate our shimmer comp, and we're going to drag this below everything except for the obscure layer. And we want to compress this mask so that we're covering only the edges of this post. So click over here, grab your mask, and we want to drag this in here, over here to here. And we want to reduce the feather, so hit F, and we're going to bring the feather back down. So we get a pretty strong, tight glow coming off this post here. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a shadow on the other side of it. So what we can do is go to our project window, take our shimmer, hit Control D to duplicate it, take shimmer 2, name it shadow, and double click to open it up. And we're going to open it up, and we're going to hit Control Shift Y to bring up our solid settings, and we're going to change this to a dark blue, kind of right in this area here, and click New. Then we go to main comp, and we're going to drag the shadow in underneath all of this. Now obviously we don't want it to look quite like that, so we want to shrink our shadow to match up with everything else. So we don't want it to last any longer than the light does. So we're going to go back to the first frame of it, and we're going to go ahead and change its mode to multiply. So toggle switches to modes, go to multiply. And once again, we want to go ahead and drop its opacity down to about 50. And we're going to draw a nice little rectangular mask right along this side of the post here. So right down this side right here. And we're going to take and hit F, and we're going to feather it out. And what we want to do once again is match the keyframes to our first shimmer. So we're going to hit U and bring up those keyframes, and we're going to click on our opacity, and we're going to copy those keyframes, go back to the first frame of the effect here, and we're going to go down to shadow, hit Control V, and we have our keyframes in place. So we have a shadow that appears with the light, flickers along with it, and fades out. All together, let's take a quick ramp preview of the whole thing. Alright, it looks pretty good. We have a few problems though. As you'll notice, our distortion map doesn't end with everything else. And the reason being, it's also the reason it's kind of offset like that, is it's following the track with the rest of the tracked footage. So we're going to fix that really fast. And how we're going to do that is we're going to go down to our displacement, which actually ends here, but it actually carries over here. So we're going to go to that last frame, and we're going to go into our effects controls for our background plate.